Nobody was expecting what happens in the Super Bowl. The Kansas City Chiefs got utterly thrashed around by the Philadelphia Eagles. And what did they decide to do? We need help on the offensive line. After losing Joe Thuney to the Chicago Bears, they took Ohio State Buckeye left tackle Josh Simmons. Arguably could be one of the better offensive linemen in football the next couple of years. Also on offense, they went with Jalen Royals, which to me didn't make a whole lot of sense because of the fact that he fits exactly what they have at receiver in Hollywood Browns. And of course, Xavier Worthy, the kid out of Texas, the absolute flyer in that production he had towards the back end of the season. But the question remains, what will the Chiefs be next year? Of course, they lost Deshaun Wharton, Derek Noddy. The interior of that defensive line is a massive question mark. But what they do have as an answer is, of course, Chris Jones, one of the best defensive linemen, if not defensive players, in all of football. Week 1, they've got it off to a great start. I got them winning that game against the Chargers in Brazil, 27-24, leaning on who else but Patrick Mahomes. Getting the ball out quickly is going to be important to establish rhythm in these games, to then open up the deep shots behind it. What does that remind you of? Mecole Hardman and Tyreek Hill for those Kansas City Chiefs offenses a couple of seasons ago, when teams were just trying to figure out how do we stop it, when you started to see the evolution of them playing with those two high safeties and having the Chiefs have to matriculate down the field, rely a little bit more on Travis Kelce as well as on the run game. But a win against the Chargers are surging. Look, with Omarion Hampton, he poses a huge threat from the get-go as a receiving and especially running back with that great Chargers offensive line, Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, maybe the best offensive duo tackle in the National Football League. But a win to start the year against the Chargers, who many people have winning the AFC East. That's a huge win. Week 2, we get the Super Bowl rematch. Eagles and the Chiefs. Have the Eagles losing to the Chiefs. Why? Because I really like, again, that wide receiver core. There's a ton of speed, maybe not all the experience that you would like to have, of course, and that's obviously the role of which Travis Kelce figures in. I think in the red zone, this is going to be a Chiefs team that's going to lean on him more, give him more opportunities, and of course Pacheco. But don't be fooled. That Eagles defensive line is still elite. That talent that they have. They took the kid out of Alabama, Jihad Campbell. Of course, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter in the middle of that defense. Tremendous out there. And of course, to mention Nolan Smith, Cooper DeJean, the white guy on that defense, and having that pick 6 in the Super Bowl against KC. But the win against the Eagles surges everybody, builds that confidence all the way up for them. 2-0 to start the year, and then a little bit of a breather. It is a Sunday night game on the road at MetLife Stadium against the Giants, but have them winning 27-13 against Abdul Carter-led Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns. This could be the best front. The Eagles and then the Giants. That is so tough. And then Baltimore the week after that. This start to the schedule is tough as far as the first 4 games go, and getting to see 2 of the best defensive lines in football. We're testing that Chiefs new core right off the bat. Hopefully Josh Simmons can step into that role and be a factor right away. Of course, I liked their draft pick in Jeffrey Bassa, who was sculpted out of the Greek god's marble definition, from Oregon, as well as the kid Omar Norman Lott. He can have playing time right away. The second round guy out of Tennessee who is on that defensive line, of course, with James Pierce Jr., the 2-0 and then 3-0 Chiefs after they beat the New York Giants. Just there's not a lot of a continuity the Giants have at quarterback. Russell Wilson coming in, Jameis Winston. They say they want to develop Jackson Dart. We'll see if that ends up being the truth and they're actually being real, that they are going to develop and help him with his NFL career in that city. That would be done by not firing Brian Daboll if they have a terrible season, which is predictable. 3-0 before their first loss of the season comes at home at Arrowhead against the Baltimore Ravens, 24-23. This is going to be one of the better games. Whenever you have Patrick Mahomes, MVP, square off against Lamar Jackson, MVP, you know the fireworks are going to be raining all over the place, and that this is going to be a tremendous game. Obviously, a rematch from the AFC Champ game 2 years ago, as well as Week 1, the kickoff game. Just the toe on the sideline. The Chiefs hang on for the win. But against Baltimore, Derrick Henry, how do you stop that? Well, you allocate resources, and then behind it, the Ravens don't have like a great elite receiving core, but they've got enough to beat the Chiefs and put their first loss on the standings board. 3-1 at Jacksonville, a Monday night game. They gave this one Monday night. Why? Because of the second overall pick in the draft, Travis Hunter. The Jaguars broke their future for right now in Travis Hunter. Like, we don't need a first-round pick next year. We don't need a second-round pick that we could have used to take a great running back in Quinshon Judkins. We think Travis Hunter can be a 2-in-1 elite corner and great wide receiver for us. We'll see that right away. Monday Night Football, Week 5 against the Jaguars, but the Chiefs win 28-17. Trevor Lawrence is not a guy I'm very high on for next year, even with the improvements, just because Liam Cohen, like first year as the new offensive coordinator, again, I mentioned the word continuity, but it's so well used because of the fact that you're establishing chemistry within that. Hunter, Brian Thomas, all that talent on the defense with Hines, Allen, and of course, Trayvon Walker, the former number 1 overall pick. A win for the Chiefs, moving them to 4-1. This is a tough schedule. That's what you get when you were the first overall team in your conference a season ago. Got that first round bye in a great record. They played the Lions on Sunday Night Football, and I've got them losing 23-30 because of one guy, Jahmyr Gibbs. He is going to be one of the best players in the NFL, a top 10 guy next year, and doing what Saquon Barkley did, doing what he did basically a season ago, but just replicating it once again without Ben Johnson's play calling. Like, it might be something like, let's just hand it to Jahmyr and see what he can do. Let's see the yards he can get. And then in the red zone, David Montgomery getting those touchdowns. A loss, though, moving the Chiefs to 4-2 on the season. It's fine. You can lose to Detroit. I know you lost to them in the season opener a couple of years ago. You're playing a lot of season openers when you win back-to-back Super Bowls, but a loss against Detroit all in. A get back in the winning column with a 5-2 record after they beat the rival in Las Vegas Raiders. This isn't the same Raiders team the last couple of years. Obviously, there was that Christmas loss against them with the pick six, and it was like, what is going on out here with Taylor Swift and Brittany Lonnie, like they're sitting next to each other. It was like, whoa, what happened? Max Crosby just doing his dances, getting into it with Mahomes, and then they go out and draft Jack Besh in the second round, one of the sadder stories with his brother on New Year's Eve. They take 2 of the best offensive players possibly when it's all said and done from these drafts in Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty out of Boise State. Tremendous talents that they're looking for production out of, but still quarterback in Geno Smith. There needs to be more on defense, and they need to build that roster from the ground up to compete with Bo Nix, Mahomes, and Herbert, and these great teams that are developing within what I believe to be the toughest division in football, the AFC West. 5-2 record at that point. I need to make a point here, though. I'm making this video a couple weeks in advance because I will be on a trip to see the Great Migration in Tanzania in the summer. This is the summer, but in August. And so a couple of weeks before, I wanted momentum throughout the season because obviously there'll be difficulties to film content while in Africa, on vacation for that trip. So if I'm mentioning players that might not be factors because of injury or whatnot, that is the explanation for it. Just bear with me. And that may be happening a couple of times. 5-2, it drops to 5-3 with a loss against the Washington Commanders on Monday Night Football. What fan is not ready to see Patrick Mahomes versus Jaden Daniels? To see that matchup, Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel now forming what they expect to be an explosive duo, as well as the production from Jaden with his legs, of course. And on the defensive side of the ball, here's a name to remember. Jimmy Jerzon Newton, nickname Jimmy, real name, birth name Jerzon, played for the Fighting Illini, and they had a great defense a couple years ago with him and Devin Witherspoon. If you don't know that name, learn it quickly because he's going to pose a risk for the Chiefs all night in that one, in the middle of that defense. 32-27, Kansas City falls. At this point in the year, in a 5-3 record, believe it will be evident that lost to the Lions in a one-score game, lost to the Commanders in a one-score game, the Ravens in a one-score game. We're losing a couple of these one-score games. This isn't what we were last year. understand that when you pay a quarterback the money you are paying Mahomes, of course he's worth $200 million your entire salary cap. Put a bunch of middle school kids out there. That team's going to somehow move the football down the field. But understand this. Talent is going to be put into other places around the league. Like Chicago is able to take Thuney. Perfect prime example. The Miami Dolphins are able to poach Tyreek Hill because the Chiefs aren't able to afford to pay the guy $30 million a year. The Bears can afford to pay Thuney the big dollars, and the Chiefs hold on to Trey Smith. This is the example. The roster's not what it was a couple of years ago. It doesn't even need to be with the 3 back-to-back Super Bowl appearances and winning 2 of them and getting to the AFC Champ game, 18, 19, 21, 2, 3, 4, 7 years in a row. At the Buffalo Bills, I've got them beating them, breaking the Bills' hearts once again. Not quite fully the way they have 3 of the last 4 years in the playoffs. And last year, every Buffalo fan was like, this is our chance to get to the Super Bowl, and just pulled it from them. Air out of the sails. It looked like Kansas City was in control throughout that entire game. A win against Buffalo, putting them to 6-3 in the standings before the bye, in a huge showdown with their divisional rival, the Denver Broncos, who are not to be taken lightly. Just ask any Chiefs fan, maybe like yourself watching this, when you were thinking you were about to lose to the Denver Broncos before that field goal was blocked. Nobody thought it was getting blocked. It was expected that you were about to lose, but you came up with a great special teams play. That's what great teams do. They win the close games. But like I said, losing a couple of the close games is a bit of the theme next year, and it continues later on in this schedule. But they do beat the Broncos in a one-score game, 24-20. Ask about the why. Obviously, these games can go differently than the way I say in a narrative that I'm trying to write. This one, it's like Mahomes shows Bo Nix what it's like to run around and just find guys, finding a way to get to open players. When Pat Surtain and Jahdae Barron might have that coverage locked for 2.5, 3.5 seconds, but you give Rashee Rice, you give Xavier Worthy, you give Travis Kelce 4 seconds, or even that 3.5 mark to get open, they're just too fast, they're too quick, they're too savvy, and we'll be able to burn them at some point in a big spot. 7-3 Chiefs with a game against the Colts. And like I said, I'll be in Tanzania, so we'll know who the starting quarterback most likely will be for Indianapolis. Anything but handing the ball to Jonathan Taylor 25 times would be a mistake for them next year, and giving the ball to Tyler Warren another 15 times. Or what did USC in that game at Penn State versus the Trojans out there at the Coliseum? It was like 17 catches for $190 in a score. That's what the Colts should do, but that won't bode well against Kansas City. Got the Chiefs moving to 8-3 on the season. A win against the Colts, 28-9, before they head on the road Thanksgiving Day against the Cowboys. 31-20, got to beat the Cowboys. It just seems like that will be the type of game America will push to be the number 1 viewed game of the season, like 60 million viewers. America's team versus what's like really America's team, the Kansas City Chiefs, and how it's been. Like, how can you not root for the Chiefs still? It's funny in this narrative sense that everybody is going out against the Chiefs just because they're good, but they still have that great core. How can you not root for Patrick Mahomes still? He's so talented. He wins. He's got that attitude, that swagger, confidence to him to find his guy, and then as well, Travis Kelce. I can understand the hate. I was rooting for him to lose to the Eagles, just like a lot of people, for the fact I didn't want to see a three-peat in our sport, which has never happened, but a win against the Cowboys nonetheless, moving them to 9-3 on the season. And understand this, that game against the Texans on Sunday night just might decide the entire conference. That Texans team is for real, and don't be fooled by your game against them in the playoffs last year where you utterly were in control throughout it. Had a little scare there, right? There's a moment where you might, like, this is closer than we would like it to be. But Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, the kids from Iowa State, if you want to brush up on the research or you don't want to, I've got you covered for the Texans. Tank Dell coming back from injury. Nico Collins being a top 10 wide receiver in football for next year. A defense that, of course, features Derek Stingley, one of the best young defensive backs. Will Anderson Jr., who was the best defensive player in college football 2 years ago and is turning into one of the best NFL defensive players. Other side of that is Danielle Hunter, and that team is loaded. CJ Stroud will make another step forward in year 3. Even so, they've won the division back-to-back years and playoff games. I've got the Texans beating the Chiefs, dropping their record to 9-4 on the season, but possibly a tiebreaker that kicks the Chiefs out of the number 1 seed, which has been so valuable. Not having to play a game in that first round of the playoffs. Even if you do get it at home, you understand how tougher it is to get there when you have to play an entire game and you got to keep your body fresh for the postseason. Then it's the Chargers. The Chargers are a year away. Still, they could do it. They could win the division this year, absolutely. I'm not going to doubt it, but I just believe it will be still a year away before they accomplish it. 30-23, the Chiefs beat the Chargers and ultimately kind of clinch the division in a sense. At that point, moving to 10-4 on the season, beating them. The second time will come down to, it'll be a tight ball game. The Chargers are a couple of turnovers is what you see here. Obviously, Spagnuolo is such a great defensive coordinator, and Harbaugh's going to try and lean on his defense with Jesse Minter and Trey Harris on offense, getting more targets from Ladd McConkey, freeing them up. But this is just a great matchup overall. Do we have to come up with the perfect prediction? No, but this is going to be a lot of fun. It could go either way as far as deciding the AFC West. At that point, they'd be 10-4 heading into that last 3 games at the Titans, Broncos, and then at the Raiders. Doesn't seem all that tough, but do have them beating the Titans 29-13. Cam Ward, first-year starter. Of course, the rookie number 1 overall pick quarterback. It's just like that roster. You got rid of your whole team in the past couple of years. Derrick Henry, don't need this 2,000-yard rusher at this point. Just a freak. 6'3", 230 pounds. That's just going to be a top 5 running back in football every year. We don't need A.J. Brown, who's a top 5 wide receiver. Why do we need him at all? Why do we need a good head coach in Vrabel that took us to an AFC championship game and out from the dumps since we'd made the Super Bowl and lost to the Rams? No, we don't need him. Titans just, it doesn't make sense. I know they took Cam Ward. In my humble opinion, they went too early. I thought they should have gotten more capital and then taken a quarterback the next year, because this load of guys, whether it's Nussmeier, Klubnik, Sellers, DJ Lagway, Aller, believe that they are all on the same, if not better, talent level and ability than Cam Ward, and you could potentially get one of those guys later and not just first overall. The Broncos on Thursday Night Football, after they are 11-4, have them losing to Denver. Denver's going to need it. They're pushing to get into the playoffs. Maybe the Chiefs, after that Chargers game or the Titans win, already have the division locked up. 27-23 nonetheless. Whether everybody's playing, Denver's going to beat the Chiefs, believe, at some point next year. That defense is too good with Jahdae Barron. And now that they have a year with Bo Nix, building that chemistry with Sean Payton and understanding the offense and what they want to do schematically, what the idea is of who they want to be as a team. Before the last game of the season, have the benches for KC out there playing a loss to the Raiders, moving them to 11-6, but the champs of the AFC West, of course, that this would change a little bit if they had their guys out there playing if they needed to. That's just the prediction that we have. Again, we talked about Besh and Crosby and Bowers, Geno Smith that first year at the Raiders. This is a team very similar to the Titans. It's maybe biding their time for a quarterback in the 2026 draft, because in that AFC West now, Mahomes, Herbert, Bo Nix, they look to be loaded, good offenses, great coaches in Peyton and Harbaugh and Andy Reid. That's the best coach division in football, and in my opinion, a lot of opinions on this show. Maybe you got to just keep it coming, because that's what we're going to be doing with Blitz and Blender more often. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this video. Is Kansas City on the right track? Will they fall off a little bit, not get that first round bye? You could obviously see that. It's not a hot take, but it could be a hot take. If you are bold enough to say the Chargers win the division, I was not bold enough yet to do it, but I could see it happening. Overall, please make sure to subscribe so I can continue to do this with passion. It's going to be passionate whether or not you subscribe, but it would just be amazing to have you join this community I am trying to build this year and beyond. So please help me out with this subscribe and let me know down in the comments what kind of content you would like to see in the future from me. With all that said, please have a great rest of your day, or check out a couple more videos of the Blitz with Blender football brand getting ready for the start of next season. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blender. Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Blender.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.